Good morning, everyone, and welcome at already the fourth day of our With Locals Host Week. I hope you're enjoying it just as much as we do. And today we're going to give you a glimpse of Rome. And our lovely host, Yanira, is going to show you the Colosseum. Unfortunately, she's not allowed to go in because they don't allow the live streams there. But she's going to show you everything from another different perspective. And I'm sure you'll love it. Let me tell you a little bit about the media that we use today. So if you want to give your feedback, you can do so by clicking the chat icon, and then you can ask your questions. So whatever questions you have, don't hesitate and put them there. Then we will interact, and I will be the one, to ask them to Yanira, who will then answer the questions. Another thing that we have, another feature, is the heart button. So if you like something, don't hesitate and press it as much as you want. So please let me give the stage to Yanira. My name, by the way, is Ariane, and I will be hosting this session. But of course, Yanira is the star of today. So please, Yanira, go ahead.
Thank you, Ariane. Thank you for your introduction. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. So as Ariane said, today we're going to visit Rome. So I usually lead the Colosseum tour, not the virtual, but the real Colosseum tour. It's just as Ariane explained, we can't live stream tour from there, so that's why I'm using other resources. So I'm going to share with you some things that I find useful. So I hope they can help you with your attraction tours as well. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the meeting point and how I choose the meeting point. So what I'm sharing with you is the right spot where I meet my guests. It's this green kiosk that you see in the image right outside the entrance of the Colosseum metro station, and this is, as you can see, across the street from the Colosseum. So the entrance is here, but I don't meet them there because that would be very chaotic and they might not find me. So I think it's very important that you choose a meeting point which they can't miss, and you make it very detailed on the tour description. So would I tell?
Yes, Yanira. I think it's also important that you can have an address attached to a meeting point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Because what do you do as a person when you go on holiday? You go to a city to explore. You have your Google Maps on your phone, so you put in the address, which will take you right to the meeting point.
Exactly. So what I usually put is it comes out as Metro Colosseo, so the metro station.
Yes.
That's what I usually choose on Google Maps. You know that we have that. We have that option when we prepare an offer or when somebody books us. And yes, definitely, before we use Google Maps. And I also add like a detailed description of the area. Then, as you can see here, the Colosseum is in a valley. Okay, so it's surrounded by hills. Like here, you see the Palatine, for example. So always make it clear that it's on ground level, because they might end up there, and they are up there, and I'm down here.
Yes.
So I also make it clear that it's ground level. Especially you're coming by taxi, because the taxis will leave them up here. So I make it clear that it's downstairs.
Wow, and you have a beautiful view from there as well, so you can already start enjoying the Colosseum, right?
Exactly. So you can see like these ruins. There were ruins of a temple, the Arch of Constantine, and you see the best part of the Colosseum, because it's the part that is not broken, and it's all nice and clean. You know, this is a stone that's called travertine. That's very porous and it absorbs all the smog and the dirt. But they got it cleaned up a few years ago, so now it's nice and shining. So they got like the best view of the facade from there. Exactly. So here we can start with that. And then, well, I usually carry a sign with their name on it. I mean, because sometimes like they are sending a message to you, oh, I'm in the area, and then at the same time as you're replying, you can keep the sign so they one maybe someone in the group can spot you. Oh,
Yeah.
there he is. And then, well, then when I meet them, I usually ask like questions to break the ice. I think that's very important. So usually I ask them, where do you come from? If there are more than one guest in the group, sometimes they don't add everyone's names in the booking. So I ask the rest of the people what their names are. And something I also do in advance is to check the messages that I exchanged with them, like before I meet them, because like sometimes you exchange messages with so many people, and you might forget, because sometimes people tell you in advance that it's my first time in Rome, or it's my second time, but it's my husband's first time, or it's my son's birthday, and this is how we're celebrating.
Yes.
So if maybe when you get there, if you didn't check the messages beforehand, you have completely forgotten. Is this your first time in Rome? I told you it's my second. So that's why I usually check them in advance, and then I say, okay, so second time, oh, son's birthday. So whenever, hey, happy birthday. So it's a good idea, I think, to check the messages so you don't miss any details. Sometimes there are children in the group, like little children, maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. And what I do, some children tend to be a little bit shy with strangers. So sometimes, like something that I read somewhere, that it was a good thing if you kind of go down to the child's level. It's not that I'm super tall, but anyway, it's better because they feel more confident. If you go there, maybe if you go down at their level and you ask them, what's your name? How old are you? And they kind of, I don't know, they feel more comfortable around you. Okay, if you approach them that way, and then you don't look them up from what's your name, etc., etc. So it just ask them simple questions like their names and how old they are, and that's it. And if it's a hot day like today, I make sure that that they have their drinks. We have a great thing in Rome, which we have this free drinking water all over the city. So if they have a bottle, they can just refill it here. Or
that's great.
yeah, there are fountains everywhere, and here behind the green kiosk there's another one. So I always tell them that I do that all the time, because is it safe? Is this true that it's safe to drink? Yes, it is. I mean, I drink it all the time, and I'm still alive. So yeah, it is. So well, I usually make sure that they have the water if they need it. There are some little fountains also inside the Colosseum, but if it's a hot day, I usually make sure they have it in advance. And well, then. I'm going to tell you about how I start the tour. Okay, so well, of course, here we cross the street and we get to this area. Okay, so here we are. So we get to this area. The entrance is right here. Okay. So I take a few minutes to make an introduction, and I explain them where they are, and I actually go back in time. So I explain them what this area looked like before the Colosseum was built, so they understand how the city has been transformed through the centuries. Now we say, well, this has been here for 2,000 years, but not forever. And that is also my excuse to talk about Nero. So, when you talk about history to people, sometimes it's a good idea to mention characters that most probably they've heard of. So most people have heard of Nero. Sometimes through fake news, sometimes through a Hollywood film. It doesn't matter, but it's something they know what you're talking about. So I usually start with something along the lines of, "Have you ever heard of Nero, the cuckoo Nero?" And, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, the one that set Rome on fire, was playing the lyre. Well, that was not exactly accurate, but yeah, that's the guy. And then I talk about the Colosseum before the Colosseum. And I think that when you're showing the ancient monument, it's a good thing to carry images with you, images of reconstructions. So they don't have to imagine so much, they can see it. So now I'm going to share with you some of the images that I show them. So this is one of them. Okay. So I start talking about Nero and about the fire. So I say, okay, let's go back in time to 64 AD. They might eventually not remember the dates, but it's a good thing for them to know where we are. Okay, we are 2,000 years ago, and this is what the area looked like. The Colosseum did not exist yet. Okay, so this is also my chance to start with a fun story about Nero. Because, sometimes in this kind of tour, you got some history lovers. Sometimes you got people that have never been particularly interested in history, so you don't know that. So I think it's a good idea to start with a fun story. So I speak about Nero as an eccentric character, and how much he loved being a performer, that he thought of himself as a great artist, and that ancient historians like Suetonius tell us that when he was performing at the theater, you had to stay there till he finished. So they said that women would give birth to their children. I'm about to give birth, yeah, but Nero isn't over yet, so you got to give birth. And the only way you could walk away was pretending you were dead. So some people would pretend they were dead, so they could not bear him anymore, and they will be carried out in a stretcher. That usually breaks the ice, so they understand the history can also be fun. It's not just that detached monument that has nothing to do with us. Well, there were people, some were eccentric, and I usually they love that kind of stories. And I also speak about the lake that was in the middle. This is right where the Colosseum is now. So if tell them there was a lake there, okay, but if I show them an image of the lake, I mean, it's easier. It's easier for them to understand. And I also, continue talking about Nero, and I showed them there was this huge statue of himself in this palace that he had built in that area. And this statue was called Colossus because it was huge. So Colosseum is the name that the monument got in the Middle Ages, actually. Colosseum means by the Colossus. I mean, it was never called Colosseum by ancient Romans. So it was because it was next to Nero's statue. It was next to the Colossus. That's the meaning of Colosseum, next to the Colossus. And that's the kind of thing that probably they will never forget. So, from everything you say, they might just remember 10% because they will also remember the experience. They would also remember how they felt there. But that's the kind of thing that probably they will tell their relative, their family. The ancient Romans never called it Colosseum. That, I think you have to look for the kind of stories that for sure people will remember. And then I talk about how Nero tried to commit suicide because, eventually a different person was appointed emperor at the same time, so he knew they were coming for him. And I made that very theatrical, so he grabbed the dagger and then he tried to stab himself, but then he didn't have the courage, and then he asked for help. Hey there, yeah, you. Can you come here a minute? I need some help to commit suicide because I can't do it myself. So, I do that kind of thing, and people usually like it. Okay, so I say, the one I remember this girl that once told me, like at the very beginning of the tour, oh, that was the best history lesson because, and she admitted she had never been interested in history. So I think that's what you got to look for, like getting people engaged. Yeah, this can be fun too. It's not just something that you will only read in some dusty history books. It can come alive right in front of you. So these are the images that I show, and usually when we are inside the Colosseum, then I go back to talking about the moment before the Colosseum was built, and then when it was built, and I show them a video. So with the video, they can see the actual transformation. So I would like to share it with you. Is that okay?
And Yanira, can I ask you one thing before that?
Yes,
Do
of
you
course. Please
do
go
you
ahead.
take an iPad or do you show the video on your phone? How do you usually show it to them?
But that's a very good question. I usually carry a tablet with me,
Yeah,
and I download the video to the tablet. I mean, I can also show it on my phone, but I think it's nicer if I show it on a bigger
on a
screen.
tablet. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I usually carry it with me. I also put some other images in my tablet. I mean, I have images everywhere. I have some in my tablet, and I also have like some kind of book with some more images. But yeah, definitely, I always show it on my tablet.
Great.
So, well, I would like to share it with you as well. I
Curious.
think, yeah, I hope you like it. Okay, so what we see on the video is what this whole area looked like when it was Nero's Golden Palace. That was called Domus Aurea. It was beautiful, full of gardens. It was like a Versailles from the 1st century AD. And then you can see that there was this huge statue of himself made of bronze, and then the transformation, then how it all changed, and then the lake was drained and the Colosseum appeared, or the Colosseum was built. So that's what I usually share with them, so they can see the change in the area. And then, well, I explained that eventually after Nero died, after he committed suicide, he was condemned to this kind of canceling of his memory, and the Romans used to do. So a huge part of his palace was destroyed, and then the lake was drained. Okay, so that's what they could see basically in the video. And most people enjoy it because then they can actually, by seeing it, they can actually understand
Yeah, you can
the
visualize
transformation.
it much better, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Otherwise, it's all in the imagination, and that's much harder, I think. Okay, so then this is, as we said, this is the main entrance. Okay, so now I would like to take a few minutes to talk about tickets, because yeah, you know, to get in, we need tickets, of course, skip the line tickets. And so usually this is the regular entrance. And when people book this tour, I usually send a message to them because I just want some extra confirmation. And I tell them, okay, I am about to buy the tickets. So you are 2 adults and 2 children, is that right? And then, well, then when they reply to me and they confirm everything, I try to get the tickets right away. I don't wait, even if the tour is in 1 month. And there are many reasons for that. First of all, because it's a very popular monument, it's the most popular in the city. So everybody wants to see it. And it's usually tickets are easily sold out. So probably, you don't get, if you keep on waiting, you don't get them for the time they requested or for the day they requested. So that would make everything too complicated. So as soon as I receive a confirmation from the guest, yes, we are coming to Rome that day, at that time, then I buy them right away.
And you book them online? Can you do that?
Yeah, yes. Nowadays, it's the only way. And well, back in the days, also we also used to book them online, because you need a skip the line ticket, and you book them online for a specific time slot. And unfortunately, that's very rigid. That can't be changed. So it has to be that day at that time. And yeah, I booked them online, and yeah, and that's something else I wanted to tell you. So thank you, Ariane, for your question, because I received an email from the Colosseum ticket office with the tickets. So what I do, so I buy them, I get the email, and then I send a message to the guest right away, something like tickets purchased and confirmed. Why do I do that? Because that way I got the date when I bought them. So let's say if I bought them today, that's June the 17th, and the tour is on July the 10th, then when it's July the 10th, I check the message. Oh, when did I tell them that I bought them? Oh, on June the 17th. So then I go to my emails from June the 17th, so I know the tickets will be there. I don't know. Then I think that probably you might find that useful. That's a strategy that I use to find them easily and quickly, and not to panic. Where are the tickets?
That's true, because if you just have a few bookings, then it's okay. But if you get lots of bookings in, you lose track. I can imagine.
Exactly.
I can imagine.
Like, where are they? And sometimes under normal circumstances, you might have like more than one booking in one day. So
that's very good. That's a good tip, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's like, okay, so when you send them the message, tickets purchased and confirmed, then you get the date. So you can't get it wrong. And then, well, so everything is settled, ready. So we go in, and as I said, this is the regular entrance. Sometimes people have special requests regarding the entrance. Sometimes they ask me, that hardly ever happens, but it might happen that they want to coming through the arena, or they want to see the undergrounds. And then, well, arena is, if it's not a last minute booking, most of the times it's feasible. It's something we can do. But the ticket, of course, costs more than this entrance. So I explained that to them. If they tell me that right away, we will like the arena entrance. I check if there's availability. If there is, I tell them yes, we can do that. It's just that the tickets cost a bit more, and I say how much. And if they're okay with that, I get them. The undergrounds are virtually impossible. But I explain why. It doesn't say just no, we can't. I explain why, because the undergrounds can only be visited by only 20 people at a time. Imagine that under normal circumstances, like 21,000 people go to the Colosseum every day. So, and only 20 at a time at the underground. So usually big tour operators purchase the entire slot in advance.
Okay.
So there's nothing left for us with a private tour. So sometimes I explain that to them. Look, unfortunately, we can't, but I reassure them by telling them we will still see the undergrounds, and that is true, because when we are in, this is what we're gonna see.
I have a question from the audience, from one of the hosts, one of your colleagues. Colleague John is asking, Yanira, regarding tickets that you bought already, can they be refunded if guests cancel last minute?
Very good question. Thank you. Unfortunately, no. The Colosseum people are not flexible regarding times and days. So you have to book the ticket, and this is pre-pandemic, because you might think, oh, probably because of the pandemic and social distancing. No, it's always been like that. So you got to book the ticket for a specific day at a specific time, and unfortunately, they can't be refunded or changed.
So what do you do? What do you do if this happens? I guess this will be the next question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I will tell you my personal experience. So that's why before buying the tickets, I usually send a message to the guests to get like the confirmation of the confirmation. And I told them, are you sure? Because, we cannot change it. And most of the times people don't cancel this kind of tour because it's a very popular attraction. It might be their only chance to see it. I mean, they might realize that if they cancel, maybe then there are no more tickets left when they come and they can't get in. I received a lot of cancellations last year when the pandemic started. I think that makes sense. Especially in February, I had tours booked for the month of March and April. And people started canceling because of lockdowns and restrictions. They could not travel anymore, and sometimes because they were even afraid of traveling, right, because of the virus. So that was the only time in which I received like these massive cancellations, but that doesn't usually happen. Or if the person doesn't want to cancel, but everything has been confirmed, and again, this practically never happens, but if everything has been confirmed and they say, oh, I had some last minute problem and I really need to change, I explained that we can't change the tickets, but then we will have to buy new tickets. I mean, and that's how it works. And then usually it's not a problem, but that hardly ever happens. So what you can do is try to ask among your colleagues, does anyone need a ticket for the Colosseum? But yeah, unfortunately, they're very strict. So under normal circumstances, you might find a colleague who needs the ticket maybe for the same time. And the only good thing is that usually people book the complete tour. Like they want to see Colosseum and Roman Forum. So they want like the long tour. And the only good thing is that the timing, the day and time is just for the Colosseum. So it means that you can start at the Forum and then be on time for the Colosseum. So you can do the other way around. So I don't know. That's the only good thing that is flexible. So let's say that if you have the Colosseum entrance at 12 p.m., but they wanted to start the tour at 10:30, that's perfect, because you go to the Forum first and then at 12 you're here. So that is something you can do if you have probably a colleague who needs the ticket, so you can sell them to your colleague. Okay, you do. Right. But yeah, they're not flexible at all.
I think the most important thing, what you are already doing, is confirm, and let the guests know that it's a non-refundable ticket, so they know that it's important. Once they confirm that it's a done deal. Yes.
Exactly, and they feel guilty. They feel guilty. Yeah. They cancel. Yes. Already pulled up. Yeah, exactly. And even so, even if I received a tour confirmation, I'd rather talk to the guest. So as you said, it's like confirmation of the confirmation.
Yes, and I have another remark from Brian, because he's a bit baffled by all this. He says, wow, I mean, how much are these tickets? Because it seems like they are quite expensive.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for your question. Regular tickets cost 18 euros per person, and they include the Colosseum, the Palatine Hill, and the Roman Forum. So, as we said, the entrance is, for example, 10:30 at the Colosseum. And then you got, from that moment, from 10:30, you got 24 hours to visit also the Palatine and the Roman Forum. So it includes 18 euros for all these three areas. People under 18 only pay 2 euros. So that's why I always ask people's ages and how old they will be when they visit. Because if they tell me, we have a 17-year-old, okay, how old will this person be by, I don't know, July the 10th? Because if the person will be 18 by then they don't have the right to the 2 euro ticket, then they will have to get the 18 euro ticket. So that's also very important. How old will they be? Of course, if it's a 10-year-old, that's fine. They're not Jupiter. They can't go from 10-year-old to 17 in 1 month. But if they are there, like they are 17, almost 18, like it's important to know how old they will be at that time. And as I said, most people book the full tour. Like once they're here, they want you to talk about Colosseum and talk about the Forum as well. But sometimes I would say 5% of people maybe only book the Colosseum, especially if they have very little children. Not necessarily, because sometimes they have little children and they book everything. But sometimes they just book the Colosseum. So what I do is I give them the ticket at the end. And I explain that they have 24 hours to also visit the rest of the areas on their own. So that's what I do with, as I said, the very low percentage of people that only book the Colosseum. I give them the ticket because that's an extra. Okay, so they can do whatever they want to with that. So now I will tell you a little bit more about the moment we go in. So what I try to do is find connections between the past and the present. So what we do now and what these guys used to do like almost 2,000 years ago. So what I do is compare it to a stadium. Okay, so I compare it to a stadium and I show them the shape. This is what it looked like back in the days. It wasn't parted in the middle. That's because there's been too many earthquakes, so a part of it crumbled. And so you see, so I show them this looks like a big stadium. So you see, this was like for us going to the stadium. Actually, the shape of our stadiums were inspired by the Romans' amphitheaters. And I explain why is it amphi? Because the theater is a Greek invention. Amphi means two, so it's like two together. So and I show them that a Greek theater would be half of this, and will be used for a different purpose. So, and then I also say, what we do today, that if you want to watch Hamlet, we go to the theater. But if you want to watch the football, we go to the stadium. So these guys did the same thing. They tried to find these connections and show them what the area looks like. So this is what we would have seen if we had been there at that time. And I show them the gates. So what you see at the bottom were the gates. They were 80 in total, 80 gates. And well, here there's a different image from afar. And then sometimes people want to know, how do you know that it looks like that? I mean, we have the coins. So, it's like sometimes it's good to carry some supporting evidence with you. So, for example, this is like quite reassuring when they know there was a coin from 80. This is when it was inaugurated by Titus, inauguration. So, in that coin, we can see what it looks like. Okay, so we can see, so that's the kind of image that archaeologists use to make a reconstruction, to give us an idea. Okay, so we have the sources. It's not that I'm making it up. Not that I made this drawing, I think it looked like that. Okay, so this is, I think, something that is nice to show them. And then, so we go through one of the gates. The gates were also numbered, and this is something that they love. Really, they were numbered, like our gates, right? You go to the stadium and you have to look for your gate, which is usually written on your ticket. And so then I talk about tickets now, tickets then. See, you can see you finding connections. So you say back in the days, they didn't have a mobile phone with a ticket on it, but they had a ticket made of clay or bone, or it could also be a wooden ticket. And they had the gate number written there. So same as we do. So then I usually at that moment I grab my phone and I say, okay, so let's check our gate number when I'm standing in front of the gate, and this is the one that you usually use. So here you can see an L with 4 eyes. That is the 54. And so this is the one that you use to go in. So you say, oh, it seems that our gate is 54. So let's go in. I use that also like to show this connection between the past and the present. And I also explain some curiosities, like the fact that back in the days they were also painted, so it was easier to see the number, and that the number 4 in ancient times was actually 4 eyes. It was an I and a V, which is a modern interpretation. That is something that appeared in the 1800s. Ancient Romans didn't write the I and V. And then so that is like the moment we go in. And then I explain what happened inside the Colosseum, because this is something they are usually curious about. Because they all know about the gladiators, but most people don't know that it wasn't only gladiators. There were these animal shows. So here I come up with these images. If there are children in the group, I ask them to identify the animals. So look, check this out. What animal is that? Oh, that's an elephant. Oh, what about this one? So like, I try to engage the children. And by the way, if the family asks for the long tour, meaning the Colosseum Roman Forum, the last 3 hours, I always carry a treasure hunt with me for the children. Because, 1.5 hours just the Colosseum is fine for the children. But if the family books the 3-hour tour, it might be a little bit too much for them. So I carry this game. So I prepare a treasure hunt with some pictures of things that they have to find. So, and while explaining, I also try to engage the student. Can you see anything around here? Things can be on your right or left, above. You look everywhere. And sometimes, some children really like the treasure hunt.
That's a good idea.
And they are entertained with that while the parents listen to the explanation. And then going back to these kind of curiosities that people will probably remember forever, I also talk about the arena and what the word arena means. So, and I also explain that in Latin, arena meant sand, because the arena was made of wood and sand. There was sand all over the place, as you can see in this depiction. So in Latin, sand was arena. That's how they called it. And that's something that the Spanish language has inherited from Latin, because in Spanish, when you say sand, you say arena. Oh, is that why? So you see, those curiosities that most probably they will forever remember. And then other things that I show, again, making a connection with the present, are the souvenirs. So, when you go to the stadium and you buy probably a t-shirt or a scarf or a hat with your favorite team, well, they would buy some emblems with their favorite gladiator. And this is super interesting. This is there's like a permanent exhibition inside the Colosseum, and they can see this kind of thing. And then I also explained that people spend the entire day there. So sometimes they they got bored or they carried some snacks with them. So here you can see the toothpicks. See, we haven't invented toothpicks. They were toothpicks centuries ago as well. And here you can see the seeds or the chicken bones. So, okay, so like if I'm going to spend the whole day at the stadium, I can carry some snacks with me, right? Maybe some peaches or a chicken leg or something that I can have as I'm watching or in between the intervals. And also, if they had to wait for a while between one game and the other, they would play dice. So you see, so this is like a very curious thing. And if they go bored, they will make a graffiti in their seats. So this is an Asian graffiti. This is like children at school. They're bored and they start making drawings in their seats and their desks. And this is something that people usually appreciate, like trying to understand. There were people like us. I mean, it's not like these Asian people at a museum that are kind of aliens. No, they were people like you and me. They also got bored. They also played games in the meantime. They also had snacks. They also made graffiti. And then something everybody wants to know about are the gladiators. So, maybe the thing of the animal show is probably something they don't know about, but 99% of the time they have heard about the gladiators, and that's something they really want to know about. So I go a little bit deeper into that, and I show them. So now I'm gonna share with you something else that I decided to show them. When we are standing here, okay, inside the Colosseum, from here we have a very nice view of these ruins. If you see them like this, they just look like a bunch of rocks, and then they don't seem very important. But this was the biggest gladiator school, and in order to make it a little bit more interesting, I show them what it looks like in the past. So if we get a general view of the area, like from above, here you can see this is the one. Okay, this was the gladiators.
And what did you say that was a gladiators course?
School.
Oh, school. Sorry.
This is where they lived.
Okay.
So these were their barracks, and this is also where they trained.
Wow.
Okay, so here it is. This is what it looks like. So it looks like a tiny amphitheater. You see, it has the same shape.
Yes.
As the Colosseum. This is where they also lived. And this is where they received their training, because it's not that they could go fight at the arena right away. They had to train for at least 1 year. And this was connected to the arena through an underground tunnel. So then I show them, going back to my previous image. So we said that we are here, and then the gladiator school is there. So, and I explained to them that underground there was a tunnel that connected the gladiator school to the Colosseum, because these games were in the afternoon. So in the afternoon they would go through the underground tunnel. Everything was a big surprise, and they would wait in the undergrounds, and then they would be pulled up with this kind of lift. With this kind of lift. So there were people working. This all happened underground.
Wow.
So the spectators would not see anything.
No.
I mean, they had no idea. This was like the backstage. So you see, then also if you use terms that they can understand, then it would be more clear for them, the backstage. And this all happened underground. So they would pull the guy up, and then he would make like the glorious appearance on the arena from the underground. And you had no idea where that was going to be, because there were 28 trapdoors covered by the sand. So it's like you had no idea where the trapdoors were, so you did not know where these guys were going to come up from. From the right, from the left, from the middle. So it was all very spectacular. And this is something they usually like, hearing about the gladiators. So if there is something particularly famous about your monument, I think it's a good idea to go deeper into that, because people will want to know, in this case, about the gladiators, but they might be some special features about your monument that it's popular and everyone wants to know about. So I take some minutes to talk about them, then I show them some images of the different types of gladiators. This is usually something that children love. Can you tell me about all the gladiators? Yeah, children love the gladiators. This is amazing. And if there's more than one child, I usually make them choose. Which one do you want to be? I want to be this one with the trident and the net. And okay, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be this one, Frag, with the armor. Okay, so and then I try to make them understand how they would have fought each other back in the days. So that is something. I mean, it's nice when you look for interaction with children. I mean, especially if they are into it, if that's something that they want to know about. So as most people have seen the film Gladiators, that's what I mean. If it doesn't matter if what people have heard about your monument or whatever you're going to talk about is just a Hollywood film or fake news, it doesn't matter, but at least they've heard about it. And then you can explain, that was not exactly accurate because, I don't know, in the film Gladiator, they called the Colosseum, and ancient Romans never called it that way, but we explain why, because that was a name that was given to it in the Middle Ages. But it's a good reference. Or, I don't know, if I say something about Marcus Aurelius, maybe they haven't heard about Marcus Aurelius, but it was in the film. Yes. Marcus Aurelius at the beginning of Gladiator, Richard Harris, that was Marcus Aurelius. So you see, try to look for some kind of reference, something that's familiar to them.
So can I ask a question, Yanira?
Yes, please, go ahead.
You just told about the gladiator going up into the arena, and people, spectators wouldn't know where he would come from.
Yeah.
But would it be obvious for the gladiators where they would pop out of, and what would they expect? Do they have to fight an animal? Do they have to fight opponents?
That's an excellent question. So there were, first of all, there was a kind of director that was under the arena. So the lifts that I showed you and the underground ruins, let me show you again what we see today. You see these tunnels underground. Mm-hmm. People could not see that.
No.
This was covered by the arena.
Yes.
And they could not see the lifts that I showed you previously. Okay, so these ones, they could not see that.
No.
There was this kind of director, like at the backstage of a theater, and there were underground, there were places like cages or spots that were numbered. So, for example, for the animals, it was, okay, cage 30, release the beast. Okay, so there was somebody giving directions underneath or telling the gladiators when it was their turn. Okay, so gladiator 1, you go. There was somebody organizing everything, but underground. Mm-hmm. And there were clearly differentiated games. So the one with the animals were in the morning, and the people with the animals were not gladiators, they were wild beast hunters. The idea was mainly to give a show because they needed the same animal for different exhibitions. Yes. It was like a circus for us, let's say, with a circus with animals though. So the animals that could fit underground were taken there the night before. Okay? So they were taken there the night before. They were in a cage that was numbered. So then there was this kind of director saying, okay, cage 30. And then there were these people were slaves. Okay, that had to push this bar and make it turn so that the cage or the lift would go up. Then the truck would open. and the animal will go up attracted by the light. But yeah, definitely there was someone giving directions. Otherwise, you would have imagined what a chaos. Oh, an elephant, a tiger, a bear. Oh, I have to run. You have to escape the bear. No, yeah, it was very well organized. And the gladiator games were in the afternoon, and it was one gladiator against one gladiator, not one against 100.
No.
Okay. There were like many games at the same time, so you could see them from all points of view, because it was like a modern stadium, but it was a one against one, and somebody saying when it was their turn to go up. So yeah.
We have about 7 minutes left, I think. Maybe we could see if we have any questions coming from,
of course,
from the host. Are there any questions to you guys that you've always wanted to ask? So shoot. Okay.
In the meantime, I will just tell you a little something about the moment I end the tour.
Yes, please.
What I usually do is like maybe I look for some nice closing line. Okay. For example, there was this monk in the 8th century said, as long as the Colosseum stands, Rome will stand. And when the Colosseum falls, Rome will fall. And if Rome falls, the world will fall. So, yeah, something like that. But I didn't say that. A monk in the 8th century said it. But it's something nice that you can finish with a nice closing line. And then I asked them if they need any tips for places to eat or public transportation, and usually they want tips for places to eat, so I recommend some nice local restaurants or bakeries, and it's a good idea to spot parks nearby, especially if they come with children. Sometimes they ask you, where's the nearest park? Maybe they just want to be there for a while and relax. And also, apart from knowing the public transportation, I think it's a good thing to spot the taxi stands. Sometimes people, they just want to go back to the hotel, and it's a good idea to show them.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I usually do at the end of my tours.
That is nice. It's always nice to get some tips from, from a local to where to go next.
Definitely.
And, I can imagine when it's a very hot summer day that after walking around in the Colosseum, you want to freshen up a little bit, sit in the shade of the trees and enjoy some picnic or whatever.
Exactly. Very nice. Definitely.
Very nice. Good.
Okay. And and then I also take as many pictures of them as they want to. And I mean, I suggest the best spots. For example, when we are here, I tell them this is a great spot for a picture, because you see from here you get like the whole panorama. So I mean that's also something that I suggest when I find like a good spot for a picture. I tell them, would you like me to take a picture of you here? And well, I think that's a nice thing as well when you're visiting an attraction.
And how do you usually cope with time? I mean, does it happen often that you overdo your time, and how do you manage with that?
Well, that it takes experience.
Yes.
to manage time.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's say that's something you get to understand with experience. So I usually, without the guest noticing, I check the time, of course, without them noticing it. Maybe as I show them a photo on my tablet, I can see the time. Or if I point at something, oh, look at that, and then I see my watch. So every now and then it's a good idea to check. So if I see that I have plenty of time, then I relax and I go at a slower pace. If I see I don't, that I'm running out of time, I don't make them notice it, but I just keep walking and I don't stop too much. But that is something that you learn with experience. I mean, don't worry if at the beginning, sometimes it should be a 3-hour tour and it ends up being 3 hour and 20 minute tour.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's something that you will handle with time. Like, for example, as I said, usually people want the full tour, so it's 1.5 hour here and 1.5 in Forum in the rest of the area. So that's something that you know with time. Okay,
Yeah.
so they want to spend half of the time here, and then they will want to spend the rest here. But it's good to check every now and then, so you can go at a slower pace, maybe sit down somewhere if there's any bench available. Or you can just keep walking without making them notice it, of course.
And just before I want to wrap up, there is a question let me say, there are two questions. What would be the one thing we can't miss if we are at the Colosseum?
Okay.
So give a short answer. We don't have a lot of time, please.
Yes, of course. Well, the one thing that you can't miss is definitely the permanent exhibition. You have to see the souvenirs.
Oh,
You
wow.
have to see the graffiti, the thing that you have to see the snacks. I think that's super cool. You can't.
Yeah, I think it gets more also alive, right? It is, you
Definitely.
get more the grip of what was happening at that time.
Definitely.
Great. So the next question is, for your own energy levels, how many of those tours would you do in one day?
Good question. I'm nuts. So for you to that's for you to know, I have done up to, I don't do more than 3 in one day.
Okay.
And 3 is the most, and but I mean 3 with the 3 hours. So if it's 3 hours plus 3 hours plus 3 hours, that will be 9 hours total.
Wow.
I drink a lot of vitamins and magnesium, anything you can think of.
Great. Okay.
But that's up to you. I mean, I can, with a lot of help from my vitamins, I can handle 3 in a day. Some people just do 2 in a day. So, or some people just do 1. So that it's very personal. You have
to. You personally, you do 3. Yeah.
Up to 3, no more than 3.
Great. Okay. Yeah, let's wrap up because we have 1 minute left. And don't forget, we have this afternoon's workshop. We have a storytelling workshop from Mitch Buck. He was the founder and CEO of Trip School. So tune in, please. It will be very interesting. And Yanira, I would like to thank you for your energy, and you did a great job explaining it. And it was
thank you.
A very
thank
nice
you,
session.
Ariane.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And bye, everyone. Cheers from Rome.
I'm sure they all enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.